Tulsi, it is striking when you see Putin propaganda and you line it up against Biden propaganda. Do you think that we're at risk of kind of moving in that direction right now?
And this is what's so dangerous about the place that we're in right now as a country, where this idea, this principle, this foundation of freedom of speech, freedom of expression is directly under threat and under attack. And you're right, it's not so different. What's happening here is not so different from what we're seeing happening in Russia, where you've got state TV and controlled messaging across the board. This is where we're at.
It worked so well for them during COVID. If you questioned anything, they wanted to knock you off social media. They wanted to get you in trouble because you were seen as a danger to other people. And now they're trying the same playbook with the war in Ukraine.
That was Tulsi Gabbard, who luckily is no longer a US Congresswoman, trying to make the argument that the United States is super similar to Russia, where Vladimir Putin is throwing protesters in prison for 15 years if they dare call the invasion into Ukraine an invasion. She's comparing that to the United States. Because a few people that she happens to agree with were criticized on Twitter or demonetized because they were peddling false information about the coronavirus vaccine. That apparently, to the dum-dums that you watched on that screen, is the same thing as what Vladimir Putin does in Russia, where he poisons journalists who disagree with him, where he literally kills people who dare cross him.
Same.
It's the same.
It's the same.
I mean, yeah, things might be a little shady under Putin's watch, but what about the United States? And so this is where the debate comes in, right? Is whataboutism ever helpful? And this is a debate that I saw, Nathan Robinson, I believe, was one of the people kind of defending whataboutism and how it can be helpful. He's from Current Affairs. And I think maybe in some cases where it's not being utilized intentionally to deflect from the topic at hand or to provide cover for really, really bad behavior, sure, but I haven't come across too many examples of that, to be honest.
So I disagree, but I don't think the disagreement is what you might have thought it was going to be. I disagree about how the term whataboutism is being stretched in what you just said. Did you want this? Was that what you were?
No, I want you to put it down because we're doing a story.
Okay, now we're being serious, no ice cream. I think that for it to be whataboutism, it is being used as a deflection. I think the difficulty gets into identifying what the goal of using a comparison is. That and simply adding context can look similar on the surface. That's what makes it such a deceptive, dishonest technique. When we say, for instance, I'll give you a comparison. So there, people are criticizing what Putin is doing, but what about the US? Now, it is not that there is absolutely nothing to that comparison. You can try to find there are things happening in the US that you can say are in some ways reminiscent. Of course, there's gonna be something that would make the comparison otherwise. But the goal is thus don't care about what's happening in Russia. I will use another example so that in the end we don't do anything and we just move on. As an example of the other way that you can add context, we talk often about the refugee crisis in Ukraine, and we say, help those refugees, get them money, get them out of there. And also, what about the refugees fleeing North Africa, the Middle East, Syria, any number of other countries? The goal there is to get you to care equally about both and to act on both.
Exactly.
Not to say, what about Yemen, thus let's just move on. Let's not actually do anything. Screw Ukraine. It is all about the objective. For me, it's only whataboutism when it is clearly designed to move us on, get away from a discussion that they don't like. Let's just nullify it and move on. Our job, I would say more than anything else, is to add context to what's going on in the news.
Exactly.
So that we will act, not so we will just move on and allow a bad situation to continue. They are fundamentally opposed, but similar on the surface.
Yeah, I agree with that interpretation. I think you're 100% right. And look, we saw the what about arguments that were so intentionally bad faith from the very beginning of the Russian invasion. So, I mean, I'll give you a personal one. This is not popular online, but as an Armenian, it's something that I got from people I know in my personal life. I condemn what Putin did because you should condemn what Putin did. He's committing war crimes as we speak. And well, what about Ukraine siding with Azerbaijan as Armenians were being killed and persecuted in Nagorno-Karabakh? Yeah, that was bad. I talked about what Azerbaijan did. I disagreed with it wholeheartedly. I also believe that what Putin's doing with this invasion is wrong, even if he's doing it to a country that had a political stance that I disagree with. It's not that difficult. So don't come at me with the what about to try to justify or exonerate the disgusting war criminal Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not interested in that. The other thing, what about the Azov battalion? What about? By the way, people who go to Nazi conferences here in the United States, what about you shut up and stop pretending like you actually have any concern for white nationalists or Nazis?
Exactly, yeah, when you are perfectly happy to give them weapons because you've personally invested in the weapons manufacturers who are making the javelins, the Stingers, and all that. You don't actually care. Again, it's to nullify a conversation, nullify the chance that anything is gonna be done. On the example you gave, it's a very robust one, not just in the way that you're using it now, but I remember in the early days of this conflict, you would invoke what happened with Armenia. And do you know what she did after that? Not immediately, I mean like over the course of weeks. Continued to provide responsible coverage on what was going on in Ukraine and advocated for the people dying there. She added context and then also used her values in pursuit of justice in another country. It's the exact opposite of whataboutism. She didn't say, what about Armenia? And so screw Ukraine, we're not covering it anymore.
Right.
You covered it responsibly.
Yeah, and look, the other thing is, it's okay to maybe get your analysis wrong, okay? That doesn't happen too often with me, but when it does happen, look, I really didn't think that Russia was gonna invade Ukraine.
I didn't either.
I just didn't think it was gonna happen. I'm not the only one. A lot of people didn't think it was gonna happen. And to all of our audience members who kept writing in and they were aggressively disagreeing with me, apologies to you, I got it wrong. And guess what? It's totally okay to admit that. I think it takes a lot more integrity and it actually increases your credibility to just be honest. Doesn't make me a bad person. I just had a prediction that unfortunately was incorrect, right?
There were a lot of reasons to believe that you would be right. That's why I believe the things that I did. It wasn't an aspirational thing. It was, this is the calculation I'm making based on what we've seen. Partially because it is crazy to invade Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.